The shuttle bay of Nexus Prime Educational Institute hummed with nervous energy as Administrator Zekthara's 4 eyes tracked the incoming transport vessel. Her crystalline shell clicked anxiously against the viewing platform as she watched the small craft dock with their station. Inside that vessel was something unprecedented in the Institute's 3,000-year history: a human student. The Galactic Educational Exchange Program had been running smoothly for centuries, allowing young beings from across the galaxy to experience different learning environments. Students from the aquatic deep-water worlds learned alongside the silicon-based rockborn. The plant-like Fernathi shared classes with the energy beings from the plasma nebulae, but never had they hosted a student from a Class 12 Deathworld. Earth. Even the name sent ripples of unease through the faculty, a planet where gravity crushed most known life forms, where the atmosphere contained corrosive oxygen, and where predators hunted in packs using something the humans called persistence hunting. The very concept horrified the gentle herbivorous species that made up most of the Institute's staff. "Are you certain our safety protocols are adequate?" whispered Professor Vinth, his feathered crest trembling. The aviary academic had spent the last 3 cycles reviewing every emergency procedure they had. "The reports from the human worlds speak of beings capable of surviving injuries that would kill most sentients instantly." Zekthara's mandibles clicked reassuringly, though she felt far from confident. "The human delegation assured us their student has been thoroughly briefed on galactic safety standards, and our medical bay has been equipped with the specialized life support systems humans require." The docking clamps engaged with a solid thunk that seemed to echo through the entire education deck. Several junior faculty members actually flinched at the sound. They had all read the files on human engineering. While most galactic species built ships designed to protect their fragile occupants from any possible harm, humans apparently created vessels that could ram through asteroid fields and continue functioning. The concept of deliberately flying into danger was so alien to most species that it had required 3 academic committees just to understand how humans had achieved space travel at all. A soft hiss indicated the airlocks had synchronized. Zekthara straightened her carapace and activated the translation matrix that would allow them to communicate with their unusual guest. The airlock cycled, and a figure emerged that caused several faculty members to step backward involuntarily. The human was smaller than expected. Most reports described them as towering predators, but this specimen stood barely as tall as an average Centauran youth. Slender build, unremarkable brown hair, and wearing the standard-issue educational jumpsuit provided by the exchange program. What struck everyone into silence were the eyes. Humans apparently saw in a narrow band of electromagnetic radiation, but those eyes moved constantly, scanning everything with an intensity that made every prey species in the room deeply uncomfortable. The human was clearly evaluating threats, escape routes, and tactical advantages without even realizing it. 3 million years of evolution on a world where everything tried to kill everything else had left their mark. "Greetings," the human said, raising one hand in what their briefing materials had described as a peaceful gesture. "I'm Alex Chen. Thank you for accepting me into your program." The voice was wrong, not mechanically or structurally, but there was something in the tone that set everyone on edge. Confidence, not the studied confidence of academic achievement or social conditioning, but the bone-deep certainty of a being that had never truly doubted its ability to survive whatever the universe might throw at it. Several of the more sensitive empathic species actually swayed on their feet. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," Zekthara managed, her translator working overtime to convert her clicking speech patterns into something the human could understand. "I am Administrator Zekthara. We are honored to have you join our academic community." Alex smiled, revealing the predator teeth that had featured prominently in every xenobiology textbook for the past 50 years. White, sharp, and clearly designed for tearing through organic matter. I'm looking forward to learning alongside everyone. Earth's educational models are pretty different from what I've read about galactic standards. That was an understatement that bordered on comedy. Earth's educational system included mandatory courses in what they called physical education and survival skills. Most galactic species considered deliberately exposing young minds to physical stress to be a form of abuse. The idea that human children were regularly required to run until their cardiovascular systems reached maximum capacity was considered so barbaric that several species had filed formal protests with the Galactic Ethics Committee. Yes, well, Professor Vinth fluttered, we have made several accommodations for your unique physiological requirements. Your dormitory has been equipped with the higher gravity plating you need, and we've adjusted the atmospheric mix in your personal spaces to include the oxygen concentrations your species requires. Appreciate it, Alex said, slinging a travel pack over one shoulder with casual ease. The pack would have required anti-gravity assistance for most students to lift, but the human handled it as if it weighed nothing at all. When do classes start? Tomorrow morning, Zekthara replied. Your schedule has been carefully designed to ease your transition into our academic environment. We've started you with theoretical courses in galactic history, mathematics, and xenolinguistics. Nothing too physically demanding. Alex nodded agreeably, but something flickered in those constantly moving eyes. What about physical education? I saw it mentioned in the student handbook. The faculty exchanged glances. Physical education at the Institute consisted mainly of gentle stretching exercises, basic coordination drills, and occasionally supervised swimming for aquatic species. The human concept of physical education apparently involved activities that most galactic species would classify as torture. We felt it best to evaluate your integration with academic subjects first, Professor Vinth said carefully. Physical activities can be intense for beings from different gravitational environments. Makes sense, Alex agreed, though they looked slightly disappointed. I've been doing light workouts during the journey here, but it'll be good to get into a proper routine again. Light workouts. Every faculty member present had read the reports on human exercise regimens. What humans considered light would hospitalize most known species. There were documented cases of humans voluntarily subjecting themselves to gravitational forces that would crush a delicate flyer's bone structure and calling it recreation. Your dormitory assignment is Delta Sector Level 12, Zekthara said, gesturing toward one of the transport tubes. Meal schedules and academic timetables are loaded into your personal communicator. If you need anything at all, please don't hesitate to contact any member of our staff. Thank you, Alex said, and there was genuine warmth in their voice that somehow made them seem even more dangerous. Humans, according to the files, were capable of forming intense emotional bonds with other species and would fight to the death to protect those they cared about. The idea of a being willing to die for others was simultaneously beautiful and terrifying to most galactic minds. As the human walked toward the transport tube, every eye followed their movement. There was something unsettling about the way they moved. Not graceful in the way of dancers or aerial species, but efficient. Every motion served a purpose, every step calculated for maximum effect with minimum energy expenditure. It was the movement pattern of an apex predator that had never needed to worry about anything hunting it. Did you see how they scanned the room? Whispered Professor Kelthera, a delicate insectoid specialist in theoretical mathematics. Every exit, every potential threat, and they did it without even thinking about it. The muscle density readings from their medical scan are fascinating, added Dr. Morthak, the Institute's chief medical officer. Their bone structure could support nearly 3 times their body weight, and their cardiovascular system is designed for sustained high-intensity activity. How does anything that efficient evolve naturally? Zekthara's eyes tracked the human until the transport tube doors closed. Class 12 Deathworld. she murmured. Everything on their planet was trying to kill them for millions of years. They didn't just survive it, they thrived in it. The first day of classes proceeded smoothly enough. Alex attended Galactic History with Professor Yendeth, an elderly contemplative who specialized in the rise and fall of galactic civilizations. The human asked thoughtful questions about trade routes and military strategies that demonstrated a concerning grasp of logistical warfare principles. When discussing the Krethak trade wars, Alex casually mentioned that the defeated side's supply lines had been overextended and vulnerable to harassment tactics. Professor Yendeth spent the rest of the lecture wondering how a student from a non-spacefaring world could instinctively understand strategic concepts that took most species decades to master. Mathematics proved equally enlightening. The human brain apparently processed certain types of calculations differently than galactic standard. When presented with trajectory problems, Alex didn't use the standard computational methods taught throughout the galaxy. Instead, they seemed to visualize the solutions in three-dimensional space and arrive at answers through intuitive understanding. Professor Vinth spent considerable time after class reviewing Alex's work. Unable to understand how someone could calculate orbital mechanics using what appeared to be pure spatial reasoning. The real surprise came during xenolinguistics. Professor Shareth, a linguistics specialist from the harmonic worlds, had prepared a basic introduction to galactic communication principles. Within the first hour, Alex had identified patterns in 3 different alien languages and was asking questions about grammatical structures that most students didn't encounter until their second year. "Your species shows remarkable linguistic adaptability," Professor Shareth observed as other students worked through basic pronunciation exercises. "How many languages are spoken on your homeworld?" "Roughly 7,000 active languages," Alex replied casually, causing several students to stop their exercises and stare. "Most humans speak at least 2 or 3. I'm pretty basic. I only speak 6 fluently." Only 6 languages. Professor Shareth had dedicated her entire academic career to mastering 4 galactic languages and considered herself highly accomplished. This human teenager spoke 6 languages as a matter of course and seemed to think it was unremarkable. "How is such linguistic diversity possible on a single world?" asked Thurza, a crystalline student from the Silicon Reaches. Her species communicated through harmonic resonances and found the concept of multiple verbal languages fascinating. "Different regions developed different ways of communicating," Alex explained with a shrug. "Plus, humans spread across the whole planet pretty early in our development, so we had lots of isolated communities creating their own languages. Competition tends to drive innovation. Competition. There was that word again. Most galactic species had evolved in stable cooperative environments where competition was minimal. The idea of an entire planet's worth of sentient beings competing with each other for resources was almost incomprehensible. Yet here was living proof that such competition could produce remarkable results." As the day progressed, word spread through the Institute about their unusual student. Faculty members found excuses to observe Alex during classes. Students from other species gathered in small groups to discuss the human's strange responses and alien thought patterns. By evening mealtime, Alex Chen had become the most talked-about student in the Institute's history. The human seemed oblivious to the attention. Sitting alone in the cafeteria and methodically working through a meal, specially prepared to meet their species' dietary requirements. Their plate contained protein sources that would be toxic to most galactic species and vegetable matter from high-radiation worlds. Watching them eat was like observing a mobile chemical processing plant. "Should we invite them to join us?" whispered Kraith, a young Aquarian who had been elected to the student council. "Are you insane?" hissed Veltor, his gill slits fluttering with anxiety. "Look at those teeth. Look at how they hold that eating utensil. Everything about them screams predator." "They seem friendly enough," offered Minth, a furry forestrian who had attended the xenolinguistics class. "And they're incredibly smart. Did you hear how quickly they picked up harmonic pronunciation patterns?" The debate continued around the cafeteria as Alex finished their meal and headed back to their dormitory. None of them noticed the casual way the human had positioned themselves with a clear view of all entrances to the dining area, or how they had unconsciously cataloged every other student present and identified the fastest route to each exit. In her private office, Administrator Zekthara reviewed the day's reports with growing unease. Every faculty member who had interacted with Alex reported the same observations: remarkable intelligence, disturbing tactical awareness, and an underlying physical presence that made every prey species nervous. The human was trying to integrate and seemed genuinely friendly, but they were also a walking reminder that not every species in the galaxy had evolved in safe, cooperative environments. "Tomorrow they start practical courses," she murmured to herself, reviewing the schedule. "Physics laboratory, chemistry practicum, and—" She paused at the final entry, her mandibles clicking nervously. "Physical education assessment." 3 cycles of careful planning had gone into the Institute's physical education program, gentle exercises designed to promote coordination and basic fitness without stressing any species' physiological limits. Low-gravity environments, cushioned surfaces, and carefully monitored heart rate limits to ensure no student ever experienced actual physical stress. None of those precautions had been designed with a human in mind. Zekthara opened her personal communicator and sent a priority message to the medical bay. "Dr. Morthak, please ensure our emergency medical systems are fully operational tomorrow, and perhaps increase our trauma response team to full staffing." She had a feeling they were going to need it. The morning alarm chimed softly through Alex's quarters, designed to gently wake students without causing physiological stress. Alex had been awake for 20 minutes, having completed what they considered a basic morning routine of calisthenics and stretching. The gravity plating in their room had been calibrated to Earth normal, which meant they had been exercising under conditions that would crush most of their fellow students. Down in the medical bay, Dr. Morthak was conducting final checks on their emergency equipment. The overnight reports from the dormitory monitoring systems had been disturbing. The humans' quarters had registered seismic activity consistent with controlled impacts against the floor. Impact patterns suggested the human was deliberately subjecting their body to stress forces for approximately 1 hour after awakening. Most species required artificial life support if exposed to such forces for more than a few minutes. "Perhaps we should postpone the physical assessment," suggested Nurse Thilla, her tentacled form trembling slightly as she reviewed the readings. "These impact signatures suggest the human might be experiencing some form of physiological distress." Dr. Morthak's compound eyes flickered thoughtfully. "I suspect what we're seeing is normal behavior for their species. Remember, they evolved under conditions we would consider lethal. What appears to be distress to us might simply be how they maintain optimal health." The morning academic sessions proceeded much like the previous day. Alex continued to impress faculty with their rapid grasp of complex concepts and their ability to ask questions that cut straight to the heart of theoretical problems. During advanced physics, they casually mentioned that humans had developed something called extreme sports, which involved deliberately placing themselves in mortal danger for recreation. Professor Zentrak spent the entire remainder of the class period trying to understand how a species could evolve intelligence while retaining such obvious death-seeking behaviors. Chemistry proved equally enlightening when Alex volunteered to demonstrate human chemical resistance by handling compounds that would have been lethal to most other species. Their casual explanation that humans regularly consumed ethanol as a recreational drug caused Dr. Verilon to require immediate medical attention for shock-induced paralysis. But it was the afternoon that everyone had been dreading. Coach Ratak had been the Institute's physical education coordinator for over 200 years. A Centauran with a gentle disposition and careful approach to student welfare, he had never encountered a situation he couldn't handle with patience and modified equipment. His exercise facility was a marvel of species accommodation with adjustable gravity fields, temperature controls for every known biological requirement, and safety systems that could automatically halt any activity if student stress levels exceeded safe parameters. He had spent the previous evening reviewing every piece of human research available to the Institute. The results had kept him awake through 2 sleep cycles. Human physical capabilities weren't just impressive by galactic standards, they were fundamentally impossible according to accepted biological principles. Today we'll be conducting basic fitness assessments, he announced to the mixed group of 12 students who had gathered in the main exercise chamber. Nothing stressful or competitive. We simply want to understand each student's baseline capabilities so we can design appropriate exercise programs. Alex stood among the group wearing the standard-issue exercise clothing that had been specially fabricated for their physiology. They looked completely relaxed, while every other student in the room showed various signs of nervous excitement about demonstrating their physical abilities. Several of the more delicate species had requested reduced gravity for their assessments. We'll begin with basic cardiovascular measurement, Coach Retak continued, gesturing toward a series of gentle walking platforms. Each student will walk at their natural pace for 5 minutes while we monitor heart rate and respiratory function. Remember, this is not a competition. We want to ensure everyone exercises safely. The other students began their assessments on various platforms calibrated for their species requirements. Veltor, the young Aquarian, moved through a water-filled chamber that allowed him to exercise his gill systems. Minth, the Forestrian, navigated a tree-like climbing structure designed for her species' natural movement patterns. The crystalline student, Thurza, used a harmonic resonance platform that provided gentle vibrations to stimulate her silicon-based physiology. Alex stepped onto a standard walking platform calibrated for Earth normal gravity. Coach Retak activated the monitoring systems and gestured for the human to begin. Alex started walking. Within 30 seconds, every monitoring system in the facility was registering readings that Coach Retak had never seen before. The human's heart rate was steady at a level that would indicate life-threatening stress in most species, but their breathing remained deep and controlled. Their muscle efficiency ratings were off the charts, and their coordination scores were breaking the measurement system's upper limits. "Is the equipment functioning correctly?" whispered Dr. Morthak, who had positioned himself in the observation area with a full emergency medical team. "All systems are green," Coach Retak replied, though his voice carried a tremor of uncertainty. "The readings are accurate. The human appears to be walking normally." Walking normally. Alex was moving across the platform with the fluid efficiency of a persistence hunter, their body automatically optimizing energy expenditure in ways that millions of years of evolution had perfected. Their gait was mechanically perfect, designed by natural selection to allow them to track prey across vast distances without tiring. "Could we increase the pace slightly?" Alex asked, not even slightly winded. "I usually move a bit faster than this during my normal routine." Normal routine. Coach Retak glanced at his monitoring systems. The human was already moving at a pace that would exhaust most galactic species within minutes, and they wanted to go faster. "Perhaps we should continue with the current assessment," he suggested carefully. "We want to establish baseline measurements before advancing to higher intensity activities." Alex shrugged agreeably and continued walking. Around them, other students were completing their 5-minute assessments and moving on to basic strength measurements. The facility's strength testing equipment used precisely calibrated resistance systems that could measure everything from the delicate manipulator strength of energy beings to the hydraulic power of silicon-based life forms. When Alex's cardiovascular assessment concluded, Coach Retak guided them to the strength measurement station with considerable trepidation. The standard test involved gripping a calibrated resistance bar and applying steady pressure until muscular fatigue set in. Most students reached their limits within 30 to 60 seconds, providing a clear baseline for exercise programming. Alex gripped the resistance bar and applied pressure. The measurement system immediately registered forces that shouldn't have been possible from such a small frame. The human's grip strength alone exceeded the maximum recorded values for species twice their size. When they began applying systematic pressure, the readings climbed into ranges typically associated with mechanical equipment rather than biological organisms. "Fascinating," murmured Professor Vinth, who had arrived to observe the assessments. "Look at the efficiency ratings. They're not straining at all. Their cardiovascular system isn't even elevated." 60 seconds passed. Alex continued applying steady pressure, their expression calm and focused. Other students had gathered to watch, their various sensory organs tracking the impossible readings on the monitoring displays. 120 seconds. The human showed no signs of fatigue. Their muscle tension remained constant, their breathing deep and controlled. Coach Retak realized that Alex wasn't approaching their limits. They were simply applying the requested steady pressure and waiting for instructions to stop. That's sufficient," Coach Retak managed. "Very impressive results." "Should I try harder?" Alex asked, releasing the resistance bar. "I was just applying light pressure. I didn't want to damage your equipment." Light pressure. The measurement systems had recorded forces that would have been impressive for a hydraulic press, and the human had been applying light pressure while concerned about damaging their equipment. Dr. Morthak activated his communicator and sent an urgent message to Administrator Zekthara. "We need to recalibrate our understanding of human capabilities. Our estimates were off by at least a factor of 5. The strength assessment was followed by basic agility testing. Coach Retak had prepared a simple obstacle course designed to measure coordination and spatial reasoning. Low barriers to step over, gentle curves to navigate around, and soft platforms to step between. The course was designed to be completed safely by any known species at their own pace. Alex approached the starting line and looked over the course with the same tactical assessment that had made every prey species uncomfortable during their first day. Their eyes tracked each obstacle, calculated distances and angles, and mapped the most efficient route through the challenges. "Begin whenever you're ready," Coach Retak announced. "Remember, this is about coordination, not speed." Alex nodded and began moving through the course. What happened next would be discussed in academic papers for decades to come. The human didn't simply navigate the obstacles, they flowed through them with the predatory grace of an apex hunter in full pursuit. They didn't step over the barriers, they bounded across them without breaking stride. They didn't navigate around the curves, they used them to generate momentum for the next section. They didn't carefully step between platforms, they leaped between them with precision that defied the facility's safety calculations. The course, designed to take 3 to 5 minutes, was completed in 38 seconds. Alex finished and turned back to the stunned group of observers, not even breathing hard. "Was that the right pace?" they asked. "I tried to take it easy since you said this wasn't about speed." Taking it easy. Every student in the facility realized simultaneously that they had just witnessed a casual demonstration of capabilities that bordered on the supernatural. The human had moved through the obstacle course like it was a minor inconvenience, while most of them would have struggled to complete it even at their maximum effort. "The human appears to possess reaction times that exceed our measurement capabilities," reported Dr. Morthak to Administrator Zekthara over the communication link. "Their coordination scores are literally breaking our testing protocols." In the observation area, the faculty members exchanged worried glances. They were beginning to understand why Earth was classified as a Class 12 Deathworld. It wasn't just the environmental conditions that made the planet dangerous. It was what those conditions had produced. Humans weren't simply another species with unusual capabilities. They were what happened when evolution was allowed to run unchecked in an environment where everything was trying to kill everything else. "What other assessments do we typically conduct?" Alex asked, apparently unaware of the stir their performance had caused. Coach Ritak consulted his schedule, his appendages trembling slightly. "We usually conclude with basic endurance measurement, a gentle jog around the facility's exercise track. Nothing strenuous." The exercise track was a 1-kilometer oval designed for species with limited cardiovascular capacity. Most students completed 1 or 2 laps at a walking pace before requiring rest periods. The facility's life support systems were calibrated to handle the modest increases in oxygen consumption and heat generation that such gentle exercise produced. Alex nodded and moved toward the track. "How many laps would you like me to do?" Coach Ritak realized he had no idea how to answer that question. Human endurance capabilities were legendary throughout the galaxy, but seeing them in person was an entirely different matter. Every report suggested that humans could continue physical activity for hours at levels that would kill most species within minutes. "Perhaps start with 1 lap," he suggested weakly. "We can evaluate from there." Alex began running. It became immediately clear that what humans considered running was fundamentally different from what any other species called movement. Alex's stride was long and efficient, their breathing deep and rhythmic, their posture perfect. They moved around the track with the relentless mechanical precision of a machine designed for a single purpose, covering distance without stopping. 1 lap became 2. 2 became 5. The monitoring systems registered cardiovascular activity that should have indicated severe distress, but Alex's expression remained calm and focused. They weren't pushing themselves. They were simply running at what appeared to be a comfortable, sustainable pace. 10 laps, 15, 20. Other students had stopped their own activities to watch the impossible display of endurance. Faculty members gathered in the observation areas, sending urgent reports to colleagues throughout the institute. Dr. Morthak's medical team had given up trying to understand the readings and simply focused on documenting the unprecedented data. At 30 laps, Coach Ritak realized that Alex could probably continue running indefinitely. The human showed no signs of fatigue, no indication that they were approaching any kind of limit. They were simply demonstrating what millions of years of persistence hunting had programmed into their species' biology, the ability to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. That's quite sufficient," Coach Ritak announced, his voice carrying across the facility through the communication system. "Thank you for the demonstration." Alex slowed to a stop and jogged back to the group, breathing slightly harder but showing no other signs of the incredible exertion they had just completed. "Good workout," they said cheerfully. "I was starting to feel warmed up. Do you have any other exercises we could try?" Warmed up. 30 kilometers of running at a pace that would hospitalize most galactic species, and the human was starting to feel warmed up. In her office, Administrator Zekthara received the final report from the physical education assessment and immediately activated the Institute's emergency protocols. Not because of any immediate danger, but because she realized that every safety system, every accommodation, and every assumption they had made about student capabilities had been based on the gentle, cooperative species that made up the majority of galactic civilization. Humans weren't gentle. They weren't cooperative by nature. They were the product of a world that had tried to kill them at every opportunity for millions of years, and they had not merely survived, they had thrived to the point where they had conquered their entire planet and reached for the stars. And now one of them was attending classes with species so fragile that a strong breeze could cause serious injury. "Contact the Galactic Educational Exchange Program immediately," she ordered her assistant. We need to discuss significant modifications to our safety protocols and contact our insurance providers. I suspect we're going to need additional coverage." As Alex headed to the dormitory for evening meal, they remained completely unaware of the chaos their simple physical education assessment had caused. They had tried to be careful, tried to hold back, tried to demonstrate the gentle approach that their pre-departure briefing had emphasized. They had no idea that their gentle approach had just redefined everything the galaxy thought it knew about biological possibility. The real problems would begin tomorrow when word of the assessment spread beyond the Institute and reached the attention of species who viewed the existence of Class 12 Deathworld beings as a potential threat to galactic stability. But for now, Alex was simply looking forward to dinner and wondering if they could convince Coach Retak to let them try some of the more advanced physical activities they had read about in the facility's equipment manuals. After all, they were just getting warmed up. The emergency session of the Galactic Educational Authority convened at 0300 hours, Standard Galactic Time. Representative beings from 17 different species materialized in holographic form around the council chamber, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of clicks, whistles, harmonic resonances, and electromagnetic fluctuations that the translation matrix struggled to parse. "Order! Order!" called Counselor Vexthan, an elderly crystalline whose authority derived from his species' reputation for calm deliberation. "We are here to discuss the incident at Nexus Prime Educational Institute regarding the human student." The word human sent ripples of unease through the assembled representatives. For most galactic species, humans existed as a theoretical concept, dangerous beings from a distant death world who had somehow achieved space travel despite their obviously self-destructive tendencies. The reports from Nexus Prime suggested that the theoretical threat might be more real than anyone had imagined. The performance metrics defy all known biological principles, transmitted Representative Korthak, speaking for the Silicon-based Life Coalition. No organic being should be capable of such sustained physical output without mechanical augmentation. Our medical experts have reviewed the data 3 times, added the Aquarian delegate, her gill slits fluttering with anxiety. The human's cardiovascular efficiency alone suggests evolutionary pressure that should have been impossible on any planet capable of supporting complex life. Back at the Institute, Alex was completely unaware of the galactic political crisis their exercise routine had triggered. They sat in the cafeteria, methodically working through their specially prepared meal while trying to understand why every other student in the facility kept staring at them. "May I join you?" asked a hesitant voice. Alex looked up to see Minth, the furry forestrian from their xenolinguistics class, holding a meal tray and looking nervously hopeful. "Of course," Alex replied, gesturing to the empty seats around their table. "I was starting to think I smelled bad or something." Minth's translator worked for a moment before parsing the human concept of humor. Her whiskers twitched in what Alex had learned was the forestrian equivalent of a smile. "Your scent is actually quite pleasant. Most species find predator pheromones distressing, but forestrians evolved alongside hunting species. We find them comforting." "Predator pheromones?" Alex asked, genuinely puzzled. "I didn't know humans had those." "All apex predators emit chemical signatures that prey species can detect," Minth explained, settling into her seat. "It's a survival mechanism that allows potential prey to identify threats. Most galactic species are descended from prey animals, so they instinctively react to predator indicators." Alex considered this information while taking another bite of their protein-heavy meal. "That explains why everyone keeps acting nervous around me. I was starting to worry I was doing something wrong." "You're not doing anything wrong," Minth assured them quickly. "It's just, we've never been around a true apex predator before. The stories about human capabilities were considered exaggerated until yesterday." "What stories?" Alex asked, though they had a sinking feeling they already knew. Minth's ears flattened slightly. The reports say humans can chase prey for days without stopping, that you can survive injuries that would kill most species instantly, that you deliberately seek out dangerous situations for entertainment. Yesterday's physical assessment confirmed that most of those stories were actually conservative estimates. Before Alex could respond, they were joined by Veltor, the Aquarian student, and, surprisingly, Thurza, the crystalline student who communicated through harmonic resonances. Both students looked nervous, but determined. "We wanted to thank you," Veltor said without preamble, his gill slits fluttering rapidly. "Thank me for what?" Alex asked. "For holding back," Thurza's harmonic voice chimed through the translation matrix. "We watched the assessment recordings. You were deliberately limiting your performance to avoid frightening us." Alex shifted uncomfortably. "I was just trying to be careful. The briefing materials emphasized not overwhelming other species with human capabilities." "You ran 30 kilometers without breathing hard," Veltor pointed out. "Our research suggests humans can maintain that pace for several hours. You stopped because Coach Ritak asked you to, not because you were tired." "And your strength assessment," Minth added. "The resistance bar you used is designed for species with hydraulic muscle systems. You were applying minimal pressure because you were afraid of breaking it." Alex looked around the table at 3 alien students who should have been terrified of them, but instead seemed grateful for their restraint. "I don't want anyone to be afraid of me," they said quietly. "I came here to learn about other species, not to prove how dangerous humans can be." "But that's exactly why we wanted to talk to you," Thurza resonated. "You're not dangerous because you lack the capability for violence. You're safe because you choose to be. That's remarkable." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Administrator Zekthara, who approached their table with obvious reluctance. Her crystalline shell clicked nervously as she addressed Alex directly. "Mr. Chen, I need to inform you that your assessment results have attracted attention from the Galactic Educational Authority. There are some concerns about continuing your enrollment in standard physical education programs." Alex's face fell. "Am I being expelled?" "Not expelled," Zekthara clarified quickly. "But there are safety concerns about having you participate in group physical activities with other species. The physiological gap is simply too extreme." "That's not fair," Minth protested, her fur bristling with indignation. "Alex has been nothing but careful and considerate. They held back during every assessment to avoid making anyone uncomfortable." "The decision isn't based on Alex's behavior," Zekthara explained patiently. "It's based on the potential for accidental injury. If Alex were to forget themselves for even a moment during a group activity, the results could be catastrophic for other students." Veltor's gill slits fluttered thoughtfully. "What if Alex taught us instead of participating in standard activities? They could help us understand human exercise principles and maybe improve our own fitness levels." "Absolutely not," Zekthara replied immediately. "Human exercise principles would kill most galactic species within minutes. Your biology simply cannot handle the stress levels humans consider normal." Alex had been listening to the conversation with growing frustration. "Can I ask something? Did anyone actually ask what I want to do for physical education?" Zekthara's compound eyes focused on the human. "What would you prefer?" "I'd like to help design exercise programs that other species can actually benefit from," Alex said. "Human fitness concepts might be too intense directly, but the underlying principles could be adapted. Every species here has physical capabilities that could be improved with proper training." "The liability issues alone would be prohibitive," Zekthara began, but Alex interrupted her. "What if we started with simple coordination exercises, basic flexibility training, low-impact cardiovascular improvement?" Alex looked around the table at their alien friends. "I bet I could design routines that would help everyone feel stronger and more confident without putting anyone at risk." Minth's whiskers twitched with excitement. "Could you really do that? Design exercises for different species?" "Basic fitness principles are universal," Alex replied. Progressive overload, recovery periods, targeting different muscle groups. The specific applications would need to be adapted for different biology, but the concepts work for any living organism. Thurza's harmonics took on an intrigued frequency. You would be willing to modify human exercise science for other species? That would require extensive research into our different physiological systems. Sounds like a great independent study project, Alex said with genuine enthusiasm. I could work with the medical staff to understand safe limits for each species, then develop customized programs that actually help people improve. Administrator Zekthara realized she was watching something unprecedented in galactic educational history. A student from the most physically capable species known to galactic civilization was voluntarily offering to limit themselves to help other species improve their own abilities. The concept was so foreign to standard competitive thinking that her translator actually struggled to process it. You would be willing to spend your physical education time helping other students rather than developing your own capabilities? She asked. I can work on my own fitness during personal time, Alex replied with a shrug. Besides, I'd learn a lot more about different species biology by working with everyone directly. That's more valuable than just running laps by myself. As word of Alex's proposal spread through the Institute, it triggered a second wave of academic and political discussion. The initial reports had focused on human capabilities being a potential threat. The follow-up reports described a human voluntarily offering to use those capabilities to help other species improve themselves. Dr. Ace Morthak found himself leading an unprecedented research project studying the adaptation of human exercise science for non-human biology. Working with Alex, they developed testing protocols that could safely measure improvement in species that had never before engaged in deliberate physical conditioning. Coach Raitak, initially terrified of the human student, became one of Alex's strongest advocates as they collaborated on exercise programs that actually helped students improve their coordination, strength, and endurance within their species' safe limits. For the first time in his career, he was seeing real fitness improvement in students who had previously considered physical exercise an unavoidable academic requirement. The breakthrough came 3 weeks later, when Minth completed an obstacle course that had previously been impossible for her species. Her improved coordination and muscle tone were the direct result of following Alex's adapted exercise program. When Veltor demonstrated swimming endurance that exceeded previous Aquarian records, and Thurza's resonance control improved dramatically through targeted flexibility training, the galactic academic community took notice. The human isn't competing with other species, reported Dr. Morthak to the Galactic Educational Authority during their follow-up session. They're elevating everyone around them. The fitness improvements we're seeing in other students are unprecedented in galactic educational history. Representative Korthak reviewed the data with obvious amazement. These improvement rates suggest that most galactic species have been significantly underutilizing their physical potential. How is the human identifying capabilities that our own medical specialists missed? Human exercise science evolved on a world where physical improvement was literally a matter of survival, Dr. Morthak explained. They understand biological optimization in ways that species from safer worlds never developed. Alex isn't just strong. They understand how strength develops and how to help others find their own optimal capabilities. The political implications rippled through galactic society. For centuries, physical improvement had been considered a lost art, relevant only to primitive species that hadn't yet developed advanced technology. The idea that deliberate physical conditioning could improve quality of life for advanced civilizations was revolutionary. 6 months after Alex's arrival, the Nexus Prime Educational Institute had become the most sought-after school in galactic civilization. Students from across the galaxy applied for admission to participate in what had become known as the Human Integration Program. The waiting list stretched for years. Alex found themselves appointed as the Institute's first student physical development coordinator, working directly with faculty to design species-specific improvement programs. Their dormitory had been converted into a research center where they collaborated with medical experts from dozens of different worlds. "Do you ever miss just being a regular student?" Minth asked during one of their evening study sessions. She had become Alex's closest friend and unofficial liaison with other students who wanted to participate in the fitness programs. Alex considered the question while reviewing biometric data from their latest group of participants. "Sometimes," they admitted, "but this is better than I imagined. I'm learning more about different species than I ever could have in regular classes, and everyone's getting healthier and stronger. It feels like we're actually accomplishing something important." Veltor looked up from his own studies, where he was researching aquatic exercise adaptation for his senior thesis. "You realize you've changed how the entire galaxy thinks about physical development, right? There are universities on 12 different worlds developing programs based on your research." "That's not just my research," Alex protested. "Every improvement we've documented came from understanding what each species could achieve with proper training. I just helped people discover their own capabilities." Thurza's harmonic voice carried undertones of deep respect. "That ability to see potential in others and help them achieve it. Is that common among humans?" Alex thought about their home world, about the human tendency to push themselves and others toward improvement, about coaches and trainers and mentors who dedicated their lives to helping others succeed. "Yeah," they said quietly. "I think it probably is." In her office, Administrator Zekthara reviewed the quarterly reports with satisfaction mixed with amazement. Student performance across all academic areas had improved dramatically. Physical fitness improvements seemed to carry over into enhanced cognitive function, improved social cooperation, and greater academic achievement. The Institute's safety record had actually improved despite hosting the most physically capable student in galactic history. The final report to the Galactic Educational Authority was unlike anything in institutional memory. Recommendation: immediate expansion of human integration programs across all affiliated educational institutions. The human approach to physical development represents a paradigm shift in our understanding of biological potential. Rather than viewing humans as a dangerous anomaly, we should recognize them as evolutionary specialists in optimization, beings uniquely qualified to help other species achieve capabilities they never knew they possessed. As Alex prepared for sleep in their converted research center, they reflected on how different their academic experience had become from what they had originally planned. They had come to learn about galactic civilization and had ended up teaching the galaxy about itself. Outside their window, the lights of other dormitories showed late-night study sessions where students from dozens of different worlds worked together on fitness research, biomechanical analysis, and exercise adaptation. The Institute had become a center for interspecies collaboration, unlike anything in galactic history. And at the center of it all was a single human teenager who had simply wanted to help their classmates feel a little bit stronger. The galaxy would never be quite the same.